Last week, we asked you to send your videos of you and your family performing a scene from the Bible. Here are this week's winners.
Disciples, go to the village and find a donkey worth of gold and bring it back to me. Yes, sir! Jesus said to find the donkey with the coat on and bring it back to him. Come on, donkey. Hee-haw! 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 Jesus, he brought a donkey with a coat. Perfect. Hosanna! 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 Hosanna in the highest! Hosanna! Hosanna in the highest!
Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Hosanna! Hosanna!
Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Hosanna! Hosanna! Hosanna!
Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Action! Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't do it.
Thank you so much for joining us in our second week talking about Joseph. Last week, when we left Joseph, he was in a really rough spot, having just been sold into slavery by his brothers. Eventually, he wound up being owned by an Egyptian man named Potiphar, and that's where this week begins. There are a lot of twists and turns that are about to hit our friend Joseph, but don't worry, God has a great big plan for Joseph no matter what's about to happen. Even though Joseph had just been sold into slavery to Potiphar, he tried to keep his head up and just do his tasks the best he could. Joseph, your plants are so lush down there. Thank you, man. It's just luck, I guess.
Joseph, your cooking is amazing.
Thanks, Potiphar. My mom taught me how to cook. Joseph, you're so talented. Stop it, man. Everybody can do this. God blessed every single thing that Joseph did while in Potiphar's house. And Potiphar began to realize that something was up as he saw that every single thing Joseph did absolutely rocked. I'm going to be straightforward with you, Joseph. Everything you do rocks. I want you to be in charge of everything that I own. I mean, it's all because of the Lord, but sure, I'll watch over everything you own. So Potiphar put Joseph in charge of every single thing he owned, and Joseph was in such a good place for about 2 seconds. Because Potiphar's wife wanted to be with Joseph.
So, Joseph, I've been seeing everything you're doing around here, and I was kind of thinking we should totally go out.
What? You're married to Potiphar. I'm out of here.
Ugh.
Potiphar's wife then tricked Potiphar to make him believe that it was Joseph who was the one that wanted to be together. But nope. But you know, zip. I mean, get out. So because Potiphar had been tricked, he used his power to get Joseph thrown into prison.
Ugh! What is this place?
But just like before, when Joseph got put into a horrible and unfair situation, he kept his head up and God blessed every single thing that he did in prison.
Well, Joseph, everything you do rocks. How would you like to do my entire job for me here in the prison?
Oh, of course, Mr. Warden, sir. I'll do your job for you. So just like before at Potiphar's house, the warden put Joseph in charge of everything in the prison, and the Lord blessed every single thing that he did. But he was still in prison. Some time passed, and then Joseph met some interesting individuals that had been in the king of Egypt, Pharaoh's inner circle.
I used to be Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, but he threw me in prison because one day I brought him a plain plastic cup. It was just iced tea.
I used to bake all of Pharaoh's favorite treats. He put me in prison because I baked him a donut with glaze. Who doesn't like glaze?
What's the matter, you two? Why do you look so sad? While these two were in prison, they began to have very interesting dreams that they didn't understand, that made them quite sad.
In my dream, I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand.
Okay, cupbearer, so here is what your dream means. The 3 branches are 3 days, which means that in 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift you up before all of his friends and family and restore you to your position of chief cupbearer. You will put Pharaoh's cup in his hands just like you did before. When he does this, though, remember me and tell him about me, because I was forcibly carried here from the land of my family, and I have done nothing wrong to be deserved to be thrown in prison.
Well, I had a dream too. On my head were 3 baskets, and in the top one were a bunch of amazing goodies for Pharaoh. But then, birds from the sky flew down and started pecking my delicious goodies for Pharaoh out of the basket on my head.
Oh, well, the 3 baskets on your head means 3 days, and in 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift you up and impale you on a pole, and the birds are going to eat your flesh away. 3 days later, just like Joseph had said, Pharaoh had a party for all of his officials and lifted up the chief cupbearer back to his original position. And just like Joseph had said, the chief baker was, But when the chief cupbearer was restored to his original position, he forgot about Joseph. 2 whole years passed, and then Pharaoh began having weird dreams that he didn't understand.
I have been having the strangest dreams lately. If only there were anybody in the kingdom who could interpret such dreams.
Whoops. Finally, the cupbearer remembered about Joseph and told Pharaoh that there was a man in prison that he had met that could interpret dreams.
Dude.
So Pharaoh sent for Joseph and began telling him about the dreams he had been having.
So I hear you can interpret dreams.
Well, Pharaoh, I can't exactly interpret dreams, but the Lord of my family can. And if he's willing, he might show me the meaning of your dreams.
Alrighty, so I had 2 dreams last night. The first dream was of 7 sleek and fat, delicious cows. They were grazing amongst the grass. Then, out of nowhere, came 7 skinny, ugly cows, and they ate the sleek, fat cows like it was nothing. Then I woke up and fell back asleep and had a second dream. And in that dream, 7 heads of beautiful plump grain were growing from one stalk, and 7 heads of gross, skinny, ugly grain came and swallowed up the 7 healthy ones. What do you make of these dreams?
The Lord has made clear the meaning of your dreams to me, Pharaoh. The dreams are really the same. There were 2 of them so that the Lord would really let you know what exactly it is he is going to do in your kingdom. You see, the 7 healthy, fat, delicious cows and the 7 healthy, fat, delicious heads of grain both indicate that there will be 7 amazing years for Egypt, and that crops will grow really well, and the land will experience tons of abundance. However, the 7 skinny, ugly cows and the 7 skinny, ugly heads of grain indicate that there will be 7 years of severe famine when food will be scarce and times will be really hard in the land of Egypt. This is what God is going to do in this land and all over the place.
This is a tough word, Joseph. What do you propose that we do? My King Pharaoh, it's gonna be tough, but if I were you, I would take advantage of these next 7 years of abundance and save as much grain and food as you can. That way, when the 7 years after that of famine hit, you'll be able to disperse this food amongst your people, and I do think that you will be able to survive those next 7 years.
Well spoken. How would you like to run my entire kingdom for me?
No problem.
So after many, many twists and turns, Joseph had finally ended up in charge of the entire land of Egypt. God had a plan for Joseph all along through all of the trials and difficulties that he had faced. But stay tuned, because next week we'll talk about how God's plan was even bigger than what just happened this week.